For 20 years, my family told me my brother ran away. For 20 years, that was the only story I had. My brother, Leo, 17 years old with a reckless smile and a future that felt as wide as the summer sky, had just walked out and never looked back. I mourned him. I hated him. And eventually, I learned to live with the ghost he'd become. I built a life around the gaping hole he left. But 2 weeks ago, a phone call from my old English teacher shattered everything. A voice I hadn't heard in decades told me, "Your brother never left you. The truth is so much worse than you can imagine." She was right. The story I'm about to tell you isn't the one I lived with for half my life. It's the one that was buried, a secret so dark it poisoned everyone and everything it touched. It's strange, the things you remember. I don't recall the last real conversation I had with Leo. I can't tell you what we ate for dinner the night he disappeared. But I remember the smell of his leather jacket, that mix of pine and cheap cologne that hung in the hall closet. I remember him drumming his fingers on the dashboard of his beat-up Ford Escort, filled with a restless energy that a car, or a town, could never contain. He was all forward motion, which is what made the story so easy to believe. Leo was a bird who was always going to fly the nest. Our parents said he saw the cage door was open and took his chance. A fight over grades, a girl, over nothing and everything. He packed a bag, they said, took the cash he'd saved up, and chased the horizon. For 2 decades, that was the truth. It was a jagged pill, but my family forced it down my throat until it was a part of me. My brother, the runaway, the deserter, the boy who broke his sister's heart without a second thought. I grew up in the long shadow of his decision. Every holiday had an empty chair, punctuated by a strained, unspoken grief for the boy who chose to leave. I went to college, got a job, fell in love. I built a painfully normal life, a fortress against the chaos he'd supposedly unleashed. The ghost of Leo was my constant companion, a reminder of how fragile love was, how selfish escape could be. Or so I believed. That lie was the foundation my entire life was built on. And then, the foundation cracked. It was a Tuesday, the kind of aggressively boring afternoon that defined my carefully managed life. I was sorting the mail, bills and junk, when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost always ignore them, a small way to keep the world at bay. But something, a flicker of instinct, made me answer. Hello! At first, just the sound of shallow, papery breathing. I was about to hang up, annoyed. Then a voice, thin and brittle as a dried leaf, rustled. Is this Clara? It took me a second to place it, to drag the voice out of the dustiest corners of my high school memory. Mrs. Albright. Yes, dear. It's me. I know it's been a very long time. My 10th grade English teacher. A woman with kind eyes who used to lend me books that weren't on any curriculum. She was a safe harbor. After Leo vanished, she was one of the few adults who didn't feed me empty platitudes. She just looked at me with a profound, aching sadness I mistook for simple empathy. Then, like most things from that time, she just faded away. Wow. Hello, Mrs. Albright. How are you? My voice was stiff. My mind was racing. Why now? I'm old, Clara. That's how I am, she said, her voice wavering but sharp with an urgency I could feel through the phone. I don't have much time for pleasantries. Or much time for anything, I suspect. A pause, another shaky breath. I'm in a home now. The kind of place you go when you have more memories than future. And memories, they get loud when everything else gets quiet. A cold chill snaked down my spine. This wasn't a social call. Mrs. Albright, is everything okay? No, dear. Nothing has been okay for 20 years. Her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper that made the hair on my arms stand on end. I'm calling about Leo. The name hit me like a punch to the gut. It was a word we never said to outsiders, ever. My throat went dry. My brother. He didn't run away, Clara. The words were so simple, so direct, they didn't make sense. It was like she just said the sky was green. An impossibility. What? Of course he did. He left. Everyone knows that. Everyone believes that, she corrected, the distinction razor-sharp. They told you a story. A neat, tidy story to cover up something messy. Something awful. I sank into a kitchen chair, my legs giving out. Junk mail scattered across the floor. I don't understand. What are you talking about? For 20 years, I kept my mouth shut. I was afraid. For my job at first. Then just afraid. Your family is persuasive. She laced that word with a poison I was only just starting to taste. But I'm dying, Clara. And I can't meet my maker with this lie stuck in my throat. My heart was a frantic bird hammering against my ribs. A lie? What lie? Where is he? This is the moment that replays in my mind. A permanent, horrifying loop. Her next words weren't dramatic. They were spoken with the calm, chilling finality of a judge delivering a life sentence. Your brother never left you, she whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of it all. In a way, he never left that house. The truth is so much worse than you can imagine. Before I could scream, or beg for an explanation, she added one last thing. A cryptic signpost on a road I never knew existed. The oak tree. The one with the scar. You'll find the beginning there. Be careful, Clara. You're not just digging up a memory. You're digging up a grave. Then, the line went dead. I just sat there, the dialed tone a flat, meaningless drone in my ear. The world had tilted. The orderly life I'd built was now a house of cards in a hurricane. 20 years of grief, of anger, of a story I thought I knew, all of it collapsed into a single, terrifying question. My brother hadn't run away. The story was a lie, and the truth, according to a dying woman, was buried somewhere in my own backyard. Before I tell you what I did next, how I walked straight into the nightmare that was waiting for me, I have to ask you something. If this story has already grabbed you, if you feel that same cold dread that I felt, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. It tells me you're out there listening. Your support means more than you can imagine, especially when sharing a story this difficult. Now back to that phone call, and the choice I had to make. 4 hours I did nothing. I was paralyzed. Mrs. Albright's words just echoed. He never left you. You're digging up a grave. It had to be madness. A cruel prank from a confused old woman. My parents, whatever their faults, weren't monsters. They were grieving parents. Weren't they? The lie I'd lived with was a familiar kind of pain. This new truth she was hinting at felt like a monster in the dark, and I was terrified to look. But I couldn't let it go. The seed was planted, and doubt is a stubborn weed. Every memory from that time was suddenly cast in a new, sinister light. My mother's frantic, yet strangely controlled grief. My father's grim silence, his immediate, chilling efficiency in boxing up Leo's room, insisting we had to move forward. I'd always seen it as their way of coping. Now, it felt like a cover-up. The oak tree, the one with the scar. Our backyard was dominated by a sprawling oak tree, a giant that had been there my whole childhood. The scar was from a lightning strike when I was 10. Leo had been fascinated by it, tracing the jagged line in the bark, calling it the tree's battle wound. The beginning is there. That weekend, I told my husband I was visiting a sick friend from college. The lie came easily, a skill I hadn't realized I'd inherited. Driving to my childhood home felt like traveling back in time. Every mile stripped away another layer of my adult self, leaving me feeling like a raw, vulnerable 16-year-old girl waiting for her brother to come home. My parents were surprised to see me. Clara! What a surprise! You didn't call. My mother's smile was a tight, brittle thing. I was in the area, I said, my voice unnaturally high. The house was a museum, exactly the same. A monument to the day time stopped. Leo's picture was still on the mantelpiece, a smiling ghost. The air was thick with secrets, and now I could finally feel them suffocating me. We made small talk over lukewarm tea. I asked about their health, the neighbors. All the while, my mind was screaming. Just ask them. Ask them what happened. But I couldn't. Not yet. That afternoon, while Mom napped and Dad was lost in a golf tournament, I slipped out the back door. The yard seemed smaller. And there it was. The oak tree. Older, more gnarled, but the lightning scar was still there, a pale seam running down its trunk. My heart hammered as I approached it. The beginning is there. What did that mean? I ran my hand over the rough bark, tracing the scar just like Leo used to. I looked around the base. Nothing. Just grass and roots. I felt a surge of foolishness. What was I expecting? Then my fingers brushed against it. A piece of the scar, near the base, felt different. Not hard and rough, but smoother. Softer. I pushed. It gave way. My breath caught in my throat. Using my car keys, my hands trembling, I pried at the edges. It was a piece of bark, carefully cut and fitted back into place. A perfect camouflage. It came loose, revealing a dark hollow carved into the tree. Inside, wrapped in a brittle plastic bag, was a small, metal lockbox. My blood ran cold. This was it. On the front, 3 letters were scratched into the metal, L-E-O. I shoved the box in my bag, fumbled the bark back into place, and walked back inside, my face a mask of calm I didn't feel. I made my excuses, a sudden headache, an early meeting. I could feel their uneasy eyes on me as I left. Did they know their carefully built world was about to shatter? The drive home was a blur. I didn't touch the box until I was locked in my study. The lock was flimsy. A screwdriver popped it open in seconds. Inside wasn't a diary. It was a collection of things. A half-dozen cassette tapes, labeled only with dates. A folded pawn shop receipt for a camera, dated 2 weeks before he vanished. And at the very bottom, an envelope with my name, Clara, written in Leo's messy scrawl. My hand shook as I opened it. It wasn't a letter. It was a single, grainy, black-and-white photograph. It took me a moment to understand what I was seeing. 2 men by a car at night. One was my father, the other a stranger. My father was handing the man a thick envelope. The other man was holding a wrench or a crowbar. But it was the look on my father's face that stole the air from my lungs. It was cold, hard, and ruthless. A look I'd never seen. This wasn't my dad. This was a dangerous stranger. The photo fell from my hand. Leo had found this. The camera, the pawn receipt, he took this picture. He'd uncovered something about our father. My mind was spinning, but the worst was yet to come. I dug out an old Walkman and put in the first tape. A click, a hiss, and then Leo's voice. Young, scared, and so heartbreakingly familiar it felt like a knife in my chest. Testing 1, 2. He cleared his throat. Okay. I don't know why I'm doing this. Maybe so I don't go crazy. Maybe for proof. I saw something. Dad, he's not who we think he is. For the next hour, I listened as my brother's voice unraveled my life. He'd suspected our dad was having an affair and followed him. But it was so much worse. He described meetings in dark parking lots, hushed, angry talk about money, about a local loan shark my father was in deep with. The photo was his proof. The last tape was the most chilling. His voice wasn't just scared anymore. It was terrified. He knows, Leo whispered, his voice cracking. Dad found the camera. He didn't find the film, but he knows I was watching him. He cornered me in the garage. The look in his eyes, Clara, it wasn't him. He said I had no idea what I was messing with, that I'd put the whole family in danger. Mom came in. She started crying, telling me to give him the pictures, to just forget it all. They were talking about sending me away, to keep me safe. But they weren't talking about a trip. They were talking about making me disappear. The tape ended with a sudden, jarring noise. A door. My mother's sharp, frantic voice. Leo, what are you doing? Give me that recorder. A scuffle, a muffled cry from Leo, and then silence. I ripped the headphones off, gasping. The silence in my study was deafening. They hadn't just lied. They had silenced him. They knew he was in danger, a danger my father created, and their solution wasn't to protect him. It was to erase him. The lie about him running away wasn't a cover story for his absence. It was a cover for their crime. My parents weren't grieving. They were guilty. Armed with the tapes and the photo, I wasn't a grieving sister anymore. I was an avenger. The pain that had defined my life for 20 years had hardened into a cold, diamond-hard rage. The next day, I drove back. I let myself in with my old key, the key to a house that was no longer a home. They were in the living room. They looked up, startled. My mother's face immediately tightened with that familiar, anxious expression. Clara, what's wrong? You look pale. I know, I said, my voice dangerously calm. I walked to the old stereo, put the cassette in, and pressed play. Leo's terrified voice filled the room. He knows. Dad found the camera. The look in his eyes, Clara, it wasn't him. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. My father's face hardened into the same cold, ruthless mask from the photograph. Turn it off, Clara, he commanded. No, I said, my voice shaking but firm. I'm done turning it off. For 20 years, you've had it off. I listened to all of them. I know about the money. I know about the loan shark. And I know you lied. I threw the photograph on the coffee table. It landed face up. My mother flinched. You have no idea what you're talking about. My father snarled, but his voice was weak. Don't I? I shot back, my voice rising. Leo found out you were mixed up with criminals. He took a picture. And instead of protecting your son, you protected yourself. You got rid of him. That's the part one don't get. What did you do? Where did you send him? My mother finally broke. Gut-wrenching sobs tore out of her, the kind of grief I'd always imagined. But now I knew it was for a guilty conscience, not a lost son. We had to. She wept into her hands. That man, he would have hurt us. He would have hurt you. Your father was just trying to protect us. Protect us! I screamed. He brought a monster to our door. And then you fed him your own son. You let me believe for 20 years that my brother abandoned me, that he didn't love me, when you were the ones who threw him away. It wasn't like that. My father growled, but the fight was gone. He looked old, defeated. We didn't have a choice. We found a place, the facility, for troubled kids. Up north. No questions asked. We paid them. We told them he was a runaway, a liar, that he was making up stories. We told them to keep him there until he learned his lesson. A facility. A place for troubled kids. My blood turned to ice. It wasn't a school. It was a prison. They'd had their 17-year-old son committed under false pretenses. For how long? I whispered, the rage draining away, replaced by pure horror. How long was he there? My father wouldn't meet my eyes. My mother's sobs were the only sound. We paid for a year, he said quietly. After the year was up, we were supposed to get him. But things were quiet. The threat was gone. Your mother was calmer. Life was normal again. Bringing him back, it would have brought it all back, too. The confession hung in the air, grotesque. They had left him there. They paid for a year, and then just abandoned him in a place where he was labeled a liar and a delinquent. They chose their quiet life over their own son. So you just left him? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. My father finally looked at me, his eyes hollow. We sent money. Every year. For his care. We told ourselves he was better off. Better off. The words were a choked, disbelieving laugh. You threw him in a cage and walked away. Do you even know if he's still there? Is he even alive? That was the question that broke him. My father crumbled, his face in his hands. We don't know, he whispered. They stopped sending reports about 10 years ago. The checks just kept getting cashed. We were too afraid to ask. Too afraid to know. The room spun. My brother hadn't been missing for 20 years. He had been erased. By our own parents. Mrs. Albright was right. He never left you. His ghost had been here the whole time, not as a runaway, but as a victim. The grave she spoke of wasn't in the backyard. It was right here, in this living room, buried under 20 years of lies. I left that house, and I haven't been back. I didn't call the police. What would I say? That 20 years ago, my parents sent their son to a disciplinary school and just left him there? It felt like a crime beyond any law, a moral stain no court could ever wash away. The family I knew is gone, replaced by two strangers sitting in the ruins of their own making. The first thing I did was look for the facility. My father had given me the name. A quick search showed it was shut down a decade ago amid horrifying allegations of abuse and neglect. The records were a mess, many conveniently lost in a fire. There's no paper trail for a boy named Leo. He was just swallowed. I hired a private investigator. He's still looking. He says that after this long, with a place like that, the chances are slim. People got lost. They were moved, renamed, or just walked out the door into nothing. He could be anywhere. He could be anyone. He could be nowhere at all. Sometimes I call Mrs. Albright at the nursing home. Her memory fades in and out, but she remembers Leo. She remembers the bright-eyed boy who was failed by everyone who should have protected him. She cries, and I tell her it wasn't her fault. But we both know that's another lie. We all played a part, even in our silence. I'm left in the rubble. The ghost of my brother isn't the boy who ran away anymore. He's the boy who was thrown away. This new grief is heavier, sharper, because it has no end. There's no closure. Just a vast, empty space of not knowing. The truth didn't set me free. It locked me in a new kind of prison. My world was shattered, just like she promised. And I'm left here, picking up the pieces, wondering if my brother is out there somewhere, a man I wouldn't even recognize, or if he's just another secret the world decided to keep. The lie was a cage, but the truth is an abyss. And I'm still falling,